Hi, folks, and welcome to Scotch Tracker Live. Today we've got a new co-host joining us, and we'll be speaking with a guest from the world of Star Trek fan films. For those watching at home, please post in the comment section if there's anything you'd like to add. To my fellow presenters, can you guys please introduce yourselves?
I'm Bob Vossler. I've been a Star Trek fan for like forever, and run a club in Ocean County, New Jersey, for the last 33 years. So I'm certifiable, and enjoying every time we do this show.
All right.
Looking forward to another installment.
Yep. Hi, my name is Maria. I live here in Pittsburgh. I also run a fan club organization for Star Trek, and I'm excited to be here. Have a lot of fun meeting with fellow Star Trek fans. This is a great time. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, I'm Johnny Q, hailing from sunny New York. Just wanted to say glad to be here. Cheers.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Nick Cook. I'm from Dundee, Scotland. Like Bob, I've been a Star Trek fan since as long as I can remember, and that memory's getting worse as I get older. But I run a Star Trek fan film out of Scotland called Starship Intrepid. We've been doing that since way back in 2003. We started work on that, so I was a lot younger, and my memory was a lot better at that point. And I had less lines and less grey hairs. But yeah, huge fan. Huge fan forever. Love conventions, fan films, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I saw Hidden Frontier just the other day, Nick. You look pretty good. You know, the years have been kind to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And we have another co-host joining us, Danny. We'll let her into the stream.
Hey, Danny.
Danny!
Hey, kids. How you doing?
Excellent.
Fantastic. Look, I see I'm
Danny,
already...
you want to introduce yourself? We just finished introducing ourselves. You want to introduce yourself, Danny?
Oh, sure. Hello, everyone. It's me, Danielle, as always. And I am so excited to talk to everyone today. And I am looking forward to all the fun we're going to have. I'm really sad. I know. Usually I'm in uniform. I am not today. However, still Star Trek. I'm good.
There you go.
Cool. So we're talking with our guest, Nick Cook. He's an actor, writer, producer, director of fan films, especially the series Star Trek Intrepid, as you mentioned, which he plays the lead role of Captain Daniel Hunter. Cook has played that same role in several other Star Trek fan productions, including Star Trek Operation Beta Shield, Orphans of War, and Tossed Upon the Shore, the latter of which was the series finale of the fan film series Star Trek Odyssey. In a different role from Captain Hunter, Cook guest starred as the red shirt Mr. Hodel in the Star Trek Phase 2 episode Blood and Fire Part 1. Nick's latest appearance was in the most recent episode of Intrepid, which is called A Treasure for the Ages, and was released just last year. Welcome, Nick Cook. I'm pleased you could beam aboard to join us. I'd like to start by asking you a couple of questions. Firstly, what are your earliest memories of Star Trek?
Oh, that's a good one, actually. So I am... old, so my earliest memories of Star Trek really are my earliest memories
last month, right?
Yeah, it was actually, yeah.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, so my earliest memories of Star Trek are watching the original the animated series from actually
wow.
back in so probably first run in the UK back in the 70s, and I had this as a baby. I had this kind of little wooden high chair, and I kept it, and I used to use it as the captain's chair when I was playing Star Trek and playing Captain Kirk and that kind of thing. And I can specifically remember, I think it might have been my 6th birthday party, playing Star Trek. Yeah, I remember sitting in that chair, and I had phasers and communicators made out of Lego, and that might have come later, but yeah, huge Star Trek nerd. I mean, I can't remember a time in my life where there was no Star Trek.
So when you were a kid playing Star Trek, were you the captain, or did you pick a different role?
Oh God! Oh hell yes! Yeah, definitely. I mean, the reality is, I mean, I like playing the captain. Although I could kind of relate to Spock a bit, because Spock was always a bit of an outsider, and Spock was a cool dude. You know, Spock was cool.
Right.
In reality, is probably far more far more like McCoy, like the whingy, moany, curmudgeonly, sarcastic person. Yeah, and I suppose I lean towards the medical side of things as well as a nurse, so probably more like McCoy. But yeah, I always played Captain because
Right.
I've got an ego, as you know. I like to act. Actors have egos, you know.
Well, you could still be a captain and be a doctor. Remember, Dr. Crusher eventually became a captain.
Absolutely.
True. Very true.
I
McCoy became an
wouldn't want to
admiral.
be a doctor. They work far too
right.
hard.
What are your co-workers? You said you were a nurse. You are a nurse. What are they aware of your your fandom activities, and what do they think?
Yeah. I kept it secret for quite a while. I mean, I started working where I work at the moment back in 2002, and I kept it pretty secret up until about 2007. And that was when we got suddenly a lot of press off the back of Starship Farragut, who'd had this thing in the New York Post, and we got mentioned in a little sideline, and Starship Intrepid and Dundee, Scotland. And the next thing I knew is press were trying to get hold of us because apparently Star Trek fans were suddenly a hot property, and there was nobody else in the UK who they could find that was doing it back then. So everybody was trying to get hold of us, and it kind of blew up. So then everybody at work knew, and there was a bit of slagging off, but some people thought it was kind of cool, and other people kind of laughed at it, and other people like, yeah, okay, whatever. There's one or two people at work that every time they see me still saying Star Trekking across the universe, and you're like, really? Come on, guys. It's been nearly 15 years since you found this out. You're still doing this.
So how did your involvement in Star Trek fan films begin?
So I used to run the local Star Trek club because I was kind of obsessed with Star Trek and lived and breathed Star Trek and that kind of thing. Yeah, sad, pathetic nerd kind of thing. And I mean, you laugh, but it's true. And the club, I was getting a lot busier with work, and the club was kind of winding down because we were getting into that stage where the internet was a lot bigger. Everybody was downloading episodes because, I mean, in the UK at that time, we were like 2 or 3 years behind the US. And the only way you got to see new episodes was if you knew somebody in the States would send you VHS tapes of it, or if you had a club where you could go and somebody else had VHS tapes and would do screenings, which technically is illegal, but Paramount at the time, was it Paramount, Viacom, whoever, always kind of seemed to turn a little bit of a blind eye to that stuff. Yeah. So I'd run that club. I'd taken over after other people had stopped it. And anyway, people weren't turning up and if they were turning up, they'd sit there. The social aspect of it kind of gone, because we used to all socialize and have a good laugh. And it got to a place where most people were downloading episodes and watching them at home. So less people come to the club. The social aspect of it was kind of going away. And it kind of says, this is far too much work. It was costing me money because I had to hire a place, hire equipment, that kind of thing. I said, look, we're just going to wrap it up. But there was a core kind of group of friends, and we were like, let's find something else to do. And I'd said at the time, well, why don't we do an audio novel? Because there were things like Section 31 files. We could do like an audio thing. And it was Dylan Feeney, who was this guy who did our theme tune, which is awesome. I love it. It's a great piece of music. Dylan's really talented. Suggested we just make a fan film. And I thought, why not make a fan film? I've seen Hidden Frontier. I've seen Starship Exeter. I love Starship Exeter. Hidden Frontier is a lot of fun. How hard could that be? Hidden Frontier churn out 6-7 episodes a year. How hard can that be? I've no idea.
Down the rabbit hole you go.
So Steve Hammond at the time, who kind of directed a lot of them and does video and that kind of thing, said, I've got a camcorder. So we thought, this will be great. So I wrote a script and I kept rewriting it as we were filming it. And Steve will tell stories about this. It used to drive him nuts. I'd call him up and say, back in the days when people kind of phoned rather than text or messaged, and say, I've got this great idea and I've rewritten this scene. And you just see his face go, yeah. And there's at one point it was all green screen, and then started adding exterior scenes, and that just upped the workload. Like, I mean, didn't have to key it, but shooting outside was like nightmarish. Anyway, so it all kind of grew from there, and we chatted a bit from Rob from Hidden Frontier and asked about if someone could have a cameo, and we kind of said, well, let's have Risha on as Shelby. And I wrote that scene for Risha, which actually she kind of completely stole and basically made into this whole Hunter Shelby thing, which to this day I love playing with Risha. Not that I've had the chance for a while. So yeah, it just kind of grew from that, and it just kind of kept going. And I mean, I'd like to say I think most of us probably enjoy it a great deal, but I love doing it so much that I just can't give it up because it's fun. And I mean, obviously I've got my original friends that I was involved with before this, but I've made so many friends through doing Star Trek fan films. I mean, to a large part, I kind of stepped away from fandom a little bit, kind of organized fandom. I don't know if Dan's had any experience with this himself, but organized fandom in Scotland it's probably the same all over, but there can be a lot of politics and snipiness and stuff like that.
Over
yes.
We have the same.
Unfortunately, at times, yes.
Yeah. So I kind of I was kind of sick of that stuff, and I stepped away from it a lot. And this kind of brought me back because I know there's exceptions to this, but generally the people I've met through fan films have been some of the nicest people you will ever meet. And I mean, Hidden Frontier, I mean, Rob Caves, and everyone from the Hidden Frontier crew. I mean, I count them as friends to this day. I mean, I've gone on holiday with some of these people, you know, fly up to California about 10 years ago. We decided to do a road trip to Yosemite, and it was a bunch of people that I'd met through working on Hidden Frontier. We camped and we had campfires and we hiked in Yosemite when my wife was pregnant at the time. But it was just amazing. And these are people I've met through fan films, and they're some of my best friends to this day. And I mean, this goes on and on and on. So it's just, that brought me back into fandom a lot, and actually made me start going back to conventions, to be honest. And these days I kind of mostly managed to stay away from all the snipiness and the politics and all that kind of stuff. As soon as people start up with that stuff, I'm kind of like, I don't want to know.
The politics just takes so much away.
It is not worth it. Oh, I don't like this show. This show's like, I don't care. Bye. Oh, this fan film, this guy's ripping us off. You know what? Yeah, maybe I don't care. Whatever. Yeah. I'm friends with who I'm friends with, and I like what I like. I don't like what I like. I don't really care beyond that point. You know, the whole point of fandom is to have fun with this stuff and to enjoy it. And I make sure I enjoy it. So the reason I still do fan films is because I enjoy them so much and get enjoyment out of it. And the large part of it is wish fulfillment, because I think most of us that watch Star Trek, we're watching thinking, oh, I love that. And I think most of us want to live in that world. We can't live in that world because it doesn't exist. So the next best thing is fandom. Yes. Well, yeah. The next best thing is fandom, conventions. And, you know, if you're pretty hardcore and want to give up a large chunk of your life and your income, fan films are a really good way to get even further into it. It's just a lot of fun for me. It's a lot of hard work as well, and I think most of the casting crew, I need to go a lot easier on people, because I do find that people get burned out as well, because a lot of these shoots, especially the exterior shoots when we're outdoors, they can be very, very stressful. And I think one of the things we tend to do, and I'll put this blame on myself, is one of the things that we tend to do is we tend to try and shoot too much in one day. We don't always do it as well as we could, and we're rushed and everybody's stressed. So for this next film that we're working on, which should have been shot last year, but then COVID hit, we're going to be stretching out a lot over a longer period, just to take the pressure out of a lot more, because you do feel that pressure a lot. So as much as these shoots are fun, they're also hard work, and they can be stressful. And I can be a bit of a stress bunny and can be a bit stressed and not the happiest person. And one of the things I find, I do not like directing. I've directed on and off, not very much. But I don't particularly enjoy it because often if I'm directing, I'm also acting. I want to do that. I'm also producing. So I'm trying to keep an eye on other things, trying to manage props, trying to manage costumes. It just becomes too much, and I'm just not a happy person. And my performances aren't that great when I'm trying to do all these things at once. So having more people in doing stuff, spreading it over a longer time, I hope to just have the good stuff and a lot less of the stress stuff.
Right.
But yeah, people will tell you stories about me being like a complete stress bunny. And sometimes I actually wonder why people still come back for this stuff, because I'm not sure I'm always the easiest person to get onto at some of these shoots when I'm in a real stress mode. Yeah, I feel bad about that. I am bad about it's just not fun. For that part's not fun. The rest of it is good fun.
Awesome.
I had a quick question. So, if that's all right, can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
So you mentioned difficulties with exteriors, and obviously you probably had difficulty in terms of lack of control of lighting and audio, but I'm wondering what other difficulties you guys ran into, because I mean those already seem like very formidable obstacles in shooting exteriors. So if you have any stories or anything like that, I would love to hear.
Yeah, well, I mean, Dan will tell you himself how exciting Scottish weather can be sometimes. But yeah, lighting's a prime example as well, because as it sounds like you're well aware, the lighting can change very quickly when you exert, because you've no control over it. I mean, you can do things like using reflectors to bounce, but I mean, if you've got a sunny scene 1 minute and a cloudy scene the next minute, and it really can change from minute to minute in Scotland. It's like this last film we shot, Treasure for the Ages, there was one scene in particular where I had to really stretch a little bit, because it's like, oh, that's a really great take, but it's really sunny in that scene, and the rest of the yeah, so it can be a big problem. But rain is, we're not for Renganar, but we get a lot of rain here. It's probably why we have so much hydroelectric power. Yeah, but
Are you sure it's not for Anganar? I'm kidding.
Well, sometimes. But yeah, so we can be challenged by rain quite a lot. There's a shoot we did like years and years ago where we planned it, and we had one of our actors coming from Germany, another was coming from Glasgow, there was another couple coming from England. There was a lot of people coming from quite a distance. And we set up, and we were in the forest, and we set up, and we started shooting, and then suddenly there was torrential downpour. And we were like, I mean, we were literally there for like, but it passed, it broke, and that was fine. We managed to finish that. There were other problems with that shoot, but that was, Another time, it was one of our earliest shoots, and we were shooting out in a place called Glendall, which is about an hour's drive from Dundee. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Beautiful place. I love it up there, Glen Clover. I've hiked and camped up there in the past. And so again, there was 20 people coming to this shoot, and they were coming from England, they were coming from the west coast of Scotland, they were coming from Germany again. And it was a weekend shoot, and we were staying in the bunkhouses up there. So we'd go out one day and shoot a series of scenes, and the next day we'd shoot some other scenes that were set in a cave, because we found this cave up there that was quite cool. So Steve had planned to shoot the stuff not in the cave on the Saturday and the cave the next day, and he hadn't really prepped for the cave because he was going to do it that night. So we went out, and there was this kind of old quarry type car park place, and we started shooting, and the rain started, and it was just So like, okay, what do we do? Okay, let's go at the cave. We'll go at the cave, we can shoot in the cave will be hopefully not too wet. Yeah, well, maybe not so. So this cave was actually created by a load of loose large rocks falling down. It was not watertight at all. It was pretty cool and atmospheric, but it was water dripping constant. I mean, it was actually pretty cool. I wish we'd had a better camera at the time, but it was very atmospheric. There's water dripping. There was Bodo, who was from Germany, who was playing the Vulcan officer who was injured. So we had him kind of in a space blanket and on the ground, and he had some dialogue and stuff like that. And we went through these scenes. We made it for about half an hour. We finished these close-ups and stuff, and he went, "Can I move?" I'm not going to actually try and do the German accent because I'm terrible at accents. But it says, "Can I move?" And it's like, "Yeah, sure. What's up?" It's like, "I'm lying in a puddle of water." He'd been lying in a pool of water for half an hour, delivering lines, and didn't say anything. I'm like, dude, you should have said.
Wow.
we would have like, but yeah, I mean that he was hardcore and remains hardcore to this day.
Dedication. He took the gold star.
And I'll tell you, that stoicism works really well for him playing a Vulcan. He is good at a Vulcan. He is a good Vulcan. The accent also plays into it. It works really well.
Yeah.
So don't forget, when you need your American counterpart, just let me know. I'll fly right over. I'm just saying.
Cool.
Like, I got this.
All right, I got a question. So, like, what inspiration do you guys you use like to come up with like these scripts? Like is there like are you inspired by certain episodes that are like from Next Gen or wherever to like kind of offshoot, or is it just like purely like, hey, this is like we want to explore this type of topic? Like what the writing process? Like like for the ideas for the episodes.
So basically, I just pull stuff out of the air, to be honest. I am probably very strongly influenced by certain types of episodes rather than specific episodes. I mean, and actually, I've got a huge fond spot for episodes that have away teams on planets and things like that. I love the exterior stuff, which is what I mean. There's two reasons why I write a lot of stuff that's set on planets. A, I love the stuff where they go down to planets, and actually, there's no green screen involved, so that's like a big bonus for me. But I mean, I love episodes like Darmok, Who Watches the Watchers, The Defector. I like a lot of time travel stuff, and I've actually noticed the last few things I've done, there's been a lot of time travel in it, so I might need to get away from that. But I like things about ancient civilizations and things like that. So the archaeology episodes with Picard and stuff, I really like The Chase, for instance. So stuff like that. So things like that kind of influence me a bit. I just go for types of things that I like, but basically I can be out for a walk or a run or lying in the bath and an idea for something. I'll think, ooh, actually that would be fun. And sometimes like I'll write something and then I'll scrap it, or sometimes things don't always go somewhere because I'll start on a script and think, actually this isn't working, put it aside. Other times it's like it'll just like pour out, and then sometimes I'll go back to the scripts that didn't work and I'll take bits from them, because sometimes there'll be little scenes in them think, actually that scene was really good. Or I might think it's really good, it might be terrible, but I liked it, so I'll take it. I mean, there's a Doctor Who gag in A Treasure for the Ages that I actually took from another script that I'd written ages and ages ago, but the script didn't go away, but I liked the gag, so I just took it and plopped it into this one.
Nice.
And I'm still proud of that gag. I think one person posted say, I didn't like that. That's terrible. You shouldn't have done that. It's like, okay, whatever. I liked it, so I don't.
Everyone's
really
a critic.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they didn't like it, that's fine. I mean, they didn't like it. That's an honest reaction from them. That's how they felt. You didn't like it. You didn't like it. That's cool. I don't mind if people say I didn't like that or blah blah. I if they get abusive or they get start that's or they start saying rude things, I'm like, no, just go away, block. But yeah, if people post genuine criticism like I didn't like that, or why is this, or usually I'll engage them and say, well, actually this is why I did this, but that's cool if you didn't like it.
I love the Doctor Who gag, and I love the depiction of the Carpenter Consortium in that episode. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I pretty much wrote that character for Laura, actually, because we used her in a very, very small part in another film, and I just like Laura. She's funny, she's very, very good actress, and she's got good instincts. I thought I really, 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 really want to use her in something else. And she just nailed that one. Yeah, I mean, she was really good in it. Yeah. She's actually directing our next one, and doing very good, actually. Yeah. We stepped on each other's toes a little bit, because we shot the interiors for this last year before COVID, and we did step on each other's toes a little bit because it was a bit of a learning curve, because I'm not very good at the hands-off thing and just let people get on with it. So I kept going in and trying, and actually I need to step back because I'm getting in your way now. Again, that's me kind of not being able to step back.
I'm going to ask one more follow-up. Sorry. So when you're doing your writing, do you take the practical limitations in terms of availability of exteriors, availability of sets and production materials, does that factor into your writing, or do you story first, write the story, and then say we're going to find a way to do this?
That's a really good question, which nobody's asked me before, and to be honest, it's a bit of both. It is a bit of both. The first one we did, Heavy Lies the Crown, I didn't really do that at all. I just kind of churned out a story and then kept changing it. It's not my favorite script, but at some stage I would love to go back and rewrite that script with what I know now and what I've learned now, because I think it would be better and tighter. And there's things I would cut out of that I just think, why did I do that? But I would do it very differently. But I didn't have... One thing I did do when I wrote that, which is me going slightly off on a tangent, is I wrote the characters to suit the actors, because I thought, like, well, okay, I know these two, for instance, the characters Sakaris and Cade. Sakaris is one of our friends. We were best man at their wedding. I was best man at their wedding, and we've known them for years. I mean, we actually got them together. They got together at a party we threw. And obviously, Cade is played by my wife. So I kind of wrote it to fit their kind of relationship and how they could interact. And I knew they'd be comfortable with each other. In scenes, they've got one scene together, which actually, to this day, I think is one of the best scenes the two of them have together. And they both just kind of, it works between them. So I tried to write the parts to suit people's personalities and what I thought would be their abilities to act them. And I think I've got a better understanding of that now than I did back then. Since then, I probably have worked a little bit more to say, okay, what locations, what resources do we have, and try to tailor the stories a little bit more to that. So what you've probably seen evolve over time is slightly more self-contained, slightly more, maybe claustrophobic is the wrong word, but less expansive storytelling. Not storytelling, but locations. So I've kind of tried to tailor it very much away from ship-based, so we don't have green screen very much as well. But that kind of like some action on the ship and a lot of action on the planet kind of thing. So that's me trying to tailor it to the resources we've got there. Right. And I think generally it works, because a lot of Star Trek episodes where there's some action on the ship and Kirk and Spock and McCoy are on the planet and lots of trouble, and cut back to Scotty commanding ship. Hey, fire the phaser, tractor beams, or engines. You know.
Uncanny.
Yeah. So
even better.
So, the irony is people go on about me being Scottish all the time. I'm not. You know, I probably have the most understandable Scottish accent of the entire cast because I'm actually English with a Scottish twang. You know, so it's like I've had somebody tell me I've got a really thick, you've got a really thick Scottish accent. I'm like, that was Irish. That's terrible. I've had Americans tell me I have a really thick, and I hate the word thick. It bugs me silly, but thick Scottish accent. I'm like, I'm English. It's completely irrelevant because I've been up here. I've been up in Scotland for like at least 40 years, so it's completely irrelevant. My accent. I mean, although depending on where I go, it does change. If I'm down south and speaking to English people, I do get a lot more English. And when I go to America, I start picking up Americanisms and getting a bit of an American twang. So I'm one of those people that kind of shifts slightly depending on
bi-dialectic.
Yeah. But and I think that's a very common thing. I think
like John Barrowman.
Yeah.
He's bi-dialectic. I love him.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I also understand that because I have a non-regional U.S. accent. So whenever I go places, my accent tends to change naturally. But it's not. So you know how and we're like, oh, you're from here, and I'm like, no, it's just I've heard everyone around me, and somehow I kind of blend into them, and that also happens when I travel to other countries, which is really hilarious. But it's not a fake sounding. It's not a fake sounding type. So that's why I always found that that's why I like that word. I'm like, ooh, bi-dialectic. That's so interesting. It's a real thing.
I may steal that. Yeah, it's funny actually. I was going to say something else and I can't remember what I was saying. See, that's age coming in there again. My memory's still. It'll occur to me later. Yeah. So,
Bob, did you have something?
I have a question.
Yeah. Okay.
So I know so I just have a question for when you come up with your different characters and you're thinking of names. Is it that they're inspired by just people in your life, or history, or from Star Trek, or you just saw my name one day and decided Daniel sounded like a great name? You know, just things like that.
All of the above.
That was actually one of my
That
was actually one of my questions. Where did you get the character named Daniel Hunter from?
I have been asked that before, and I will answer that. But yeah, I mean, it's all of the above, really, because it's a question of names are difficult. Names are difficult, and you want names to come up. And basically, I steal from the best. And a lot of the time, I'll go into Google and I'll type in boy names, girl names, American names, Scottish names, Irish names, Asian names, and I'll just try and find names. I mean, one of the things that really, 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 really bugs me about our production is we're so pasty white. It really bugs me. And I constantly write non-white characters to be in the show, and I can never cast them.
Oh, wow.
Once again.
But it's annoying. I mean, I mean, we have such a large Muslim population in Scotland, and I can't get. The problem is nobody takes fan films that seriously. So if you try and cast from actual actors, there's not that many people that are interested. Sometimes you're lucky and someone come in, but 99% of the time, it tends to be people who look like me.
Yeah.
So that bugs me. I mean, technically, I'm not white because I'm half Pakistani, but it does bug me. So I would like this, and we've been criticized for this, and I think rightly so. We've been criticized for not being very racially diverse, and we're not, and we should be, because the world is a very racially diverse place, and Star Trek is supposed to be a very racially diverse show. So it bugs me. I don't want to be one of these kind of like I can't remember the words, kind of like, oh yes, we want to be so diverse, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to be anal about it, but I think we're far too far not diverse. We do have lots of female cast, which is good, that I like, but really I think we need to have a bit more racial diversity in our show, and I'm hopeful we'll get there. I mean, I've got a script in hand that I'm hoping to shoot after this next one, that was written for me by one of the writers from Project Potemkin, David, and I like that. Funnily enough, it's another time travel story, but it's fine. I like time travel stories, but there's a African American character in that, so I really want to cast for that. But we'll see.
Right.
We'll see how that goes. Goes.
I have a suggestion. I don't know if that's possible over at the UK or not, but why don't you go to a local university and just advertise at acting
I was
school?
thinking that too. Yeah.
And
It's a
go
good
to the
idea.
local acting school and say, hey, you want a gig? It's an idea to try and find.
They might even get credit from their drama class.
Yeah.
for participating.
Just a random idea.
No, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, to answer Dan's question, so Daniel Hunter is stolen from two sources. The first one is Stargate, SG-1, because I like the character of Daniel on Stargate.
I love Stargate.
Yeah, and I like the character, I like the name. Although the irony is, Hunter's quite strongly based on Jack O'Neill, but without the charisma or the good looks. But but I stole the name Daniel from him. The name Hunter is stolen from Hill Street Blues, because I loved Hill Street Blues and I liked Howard Hunter, even though he
not
was
Jeffrey Hunter.
I was thinking
not Jeffrey Hunter.
I was thinking
Howard
Jeffrey Hunter.
who actually played a complete douchebag as the captain of the Excelsior as well. So yeah, that's where that name comes from.
Tell us a little bit about the character of Daniel Hunter. What's his backstory for those that haven't seen the series?
That is a long answer. That's not really that long answer. So I'm being slightly humorous when I say he's basically stolen from Jack O'Neill, but he's very strongly influenced by Jack O'Neill. So the way I've always seen Hunter is this guy who has ability but lacks confidence. So he rose to the kind of first officer role, but he wasn't that keen to take captain. And he's one of these guys who very much can deal with difficult things, but kind of avoids them because he doesn't want to be pushed into that position. So he had to be pushed into being captain. Because he's one of those people, he's a little bit tries to be everybody's friend, so doesn't deal well with the I need to be a dick to you now because I'm your commanding officer. He's not so great at that part of it. So my plan for Intrepid was kind of make the crew, they're not the best in Starfleet, so it was a little bit almost Lower Decks kind of like.
All right,
that's what it sounded.
Yeah, there's
More
an
human,
I mean, I would love to write for that show because that's totally my style of writing. But he's very much kind of a character that would actually be at home in Lower Decks because he has got some things in common with Boimler, but he's got some things in common with I've blanked completely on the other character.
Mariner.
Rutherford. Mariner. Yeah, so he's a bit Boimler and he's a bit Mariner. He's maybe not as competent as Mariner, but he's a little bit of both of them. So yeah, that's pretty much who he is. He's a bit Jack O'Neill. Cool. He's a bit retroactively Rutherford and Mariner and Boimler.
That's cool. What was it like?
So how?
I'm sorry.
I got a question about like the production. Like how long does it usually like take for, like from like you're done filming to like you're ready to post it like on YouTube? Like how long does it usually take like for production? Like for because when I was watching some of the episodes, I was observing like the sound effects and all the graphics that you use and stuff. Like how long does that usually take?
It very much varies. Our first
Okay.
film, Heavy Lies the Crown, where we had no idea what we would. I mean, literally, we had no idea.
Right.
Steve, out of all of us, probably had more idea than any of us what he was, because he played around with making short movies and stuff before. So he used to work for DMA Design actually, so he had a little bit more idea about the production side of things than we did. But I mean, we really went in. This is a long way of getting to answering that question, by the way.
Oh, okay.
We were really very, very naive about what we were doing. So that first film, we started the first camera tests in August of 2003.
Mm-hmm.
We started filming proper, I think, in 2004. And we finally released it in 2007. So it was almost about 4 years. It was May 2007. So it was almost 4 years from concept to produced film. That is one of our slower ones, but also not our slowest. The next film we did was, we actually tried to do two at once. The problem we have is we have a lot of people working on things, but we have not enough people working on things, and everybody does it in their own time and they'll volunteer. So these things invariably slow stuff down. So there's a film we shot in 2016 called Destruct Sequence that Steve wrote, which is all green screen.
Mm-hmm.
So that is currently slowly starting to make its way through the chroma keying stage, which is where people, you key out the green,
Right,
you put
yes.
in the backgrounds and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see that being done this year, maybe next year. But even once you've got all the visuals attached, you're waiting for someone to score it. You're waiting for someone to do sound and sound effects and balance the sound. I mean, I can't do any of those things. I mean, I can do sound a little bit, but I'm not good at it, and I wouldn't to have it sound good. I want someone who knows what they're doing. We've had a few people work on these things, like Tony Raymond, Dylan Feeney, Bodo Hartwig. We've had a few different people do sound for us. So, as an example, Dissonant Minds, which is a film we released early last year, we shot most of that back in 2012.
Oh, wow.
So, and that was all exteriors, and we had a lot of problems on that shoot, and it just didn't work. Was it 2012? I'm pretty sure it was 2012. It did not go well at all. The performances in it are fine, but weather and a lot of other things worked against us. And I mean, I was doing rewrites of that script on the day as we were filming it to try and cut things down, to try and cram more into getting it done quicker. Mm-hmm. It kind of worked okay, but then the footage kind of sat there, and I did a cut of it. It's like, this doesn't work. The other problem we had there is it was supposed to be lead into another film, but then I decided it just wasn't practical for us to do. It was a 90-minute film, and we just couldn't do it. And so I decided, well, I kind of need to wrap this story up in this, but this doesn't work. I need to rewrite it. How do I do this? How do I salvage this footage? So I think it was 2018. I put out a call, and I shot a few pickup shots and a few extra shots to try and build a coherent script for it and rewrite the script around the footage I had. So I think 2018, I kind of put out a post asking for kind of help with effects. And Sam Cockings, who I don't know if people know from Trek Yards, and he does a lot of visual effects work for fan films, replied and said, look, I'd be willing to take a look at it. And so that really kicked things back into height. Absolutely. I mean, Sam's great.
Another Englishman.
Another Englishman. But Sam's great. I mean, he's very quick, actually, and he's very good at the work he does, and very helpful. So he did all the exterior shots for that, because I didn't have anything, all this kind of space effects and stuff like that. And that helped rebuild it to us then. And I did a couple of other pickups just for interiors and stuff. And there's one scene in it, there's like this climactic scene in it that's like a confrontation between the civilians and the merchants and this alien that ended completely differently the way we shot it. But I managed to recut it in such a way that actually this works, and now this leads it. So that basically took us about 7 years, 8 years, something like that, from filming to actually releasing it. I mean, that's a degree of incompetence that I'd like to avoid in future, but incompetence kind of my middle name. Actually, it's John, but I'm going to pretend it's incompetence because that's kind of more appropriate in this case. But yeah, so that's a particularly long one. This
Wow.
last film we've released, A Treasure for the Ages, which, funnily enough, is our most popular film in years. And I'm actually really proud of that one because I think it's turned out really well. That we filmed the interiors for back in January 2018. We shot the exteriors in 2019 over the spring, and then we released it last year. So that was about 2 years. 2 years from filming to release. And again, a lot of that was getting it scored. Dylan scored it and did all the sound work. Visual effects from Sam, because actually, while it's not a long film and it's all based on the planet, there's actually a fair few space shots, kind of establishing shots and stuff like that. And one of the things is, like, Sam did this really cool kind of there's that shot in the episode of Voyager Good Shepherd where they zoom in on the window of Janeway in her office.
Right.
We did something similar for that, and it looks great. So we zoom in on the ready room and Hunter in the ready room, and there's just this voiceover from Hunter. And funnily enough, that voiceover took me weeks to write. The whole script itself was fine, and I had it. I didn't have the voiceover previously because I hadn't written it for a voiceover. I had a brief log entry. And then Martin Lejeune, he's occasionally had a wee guest role. He lives, another Englishman, funnily enough. But he's a visual effects guy. His wife's a costumer, like a professional costumer. And he's occasionally done some effects work for stuff. And I sometimes run stuff by him. And I said, what do you think? He said, if you don't know Martin, but Martin's a very, not eccentric, but he's got a very unique personality and a unique approach to things. And he goes, oh, well, yeah, it needs a voiceover. I was like, he doesn't sound anything like that. I don't know why I'm putting a voice on, but he doesn't sound anything like that. Sorry, Martin. But he's just a really nice guy. And I don't know how to explain him. You'd have to meet him. He's just such an individual. And he's very talented as well. But yeah, he basically said to me, yeah, it's good, but it needs a voiceover. And I was like, you're right. So then I had to come up with a voiceover. I'm telling you, it took me weeks to come up with it. And I went through different drafts and different types, and I recorded it, then I re-recorded it, and eventually came up with what I had, because I didn't want it to be a long voiceover. It kind of needed to set the scene and set the story and stuff like that. And it just little snippets throughout to just explain things. Because actually, I maybe should have made it a little bit longer to give a little bit insight. But I think the voiceover does fulfill that role pretty well. But that was the biggest challenge of that film for me, for writing that script, to be honest, coming up with that voiceover, because it was really difficult. Voiceovers generally are not easy to write, I don't think. Yeah. What was the question again?
You had a question, Bob?
Yes. What was it like, being a red shirt on Blood and Fire? I mean, this brings you back to your Star Trek roots, of classic Trek. So that had to be, a fun experience, I would think.
That was an incredibly surreal experience, and that came around. I'm not quite sure what James's reasons were for offering me that part, to be honest. We never did discuss it. I'm assuming he was just being nice. But back when New Voyages was first, because when all these fan films were kind of kicking off in the mid 2000s, it was a very small group of us that were very publicly doing these things, and there was Hidden Frontier, Exeter, myself. There was a couple of others that were kind of Tales of the Seventh Fleet, and a couple of others that started up but didn't go anywhere. Yeah, Tales of the Seventh Fleet, absolutely. And obviously New Voyages. New Voyages started up. I think they were starting to quick up things before we were, but they didn't go public until after we'd gone public. Not that any of that stuff matters, but I remember chatting to kind of James a bit on and off, and I'd also checked to the Johnson brothers and the Tales of the Seventh Fleet guys as well.
USS Johnson,
absolutely,
our friends from Starfleet.
Absolutely. And
for those who don't know, like James Colley plays Captain Kirk in the series. What else does he do in the series? Just for those
produces costumes,
yeah,
everything really. Anyway,
also, sorry, were those other series that you mentioned like all US based or like international or all
most
based
of them
in the US?
They're all American. Yeah, they're all US. Yeah.
Right.
At least I think so. Yeah, they were. Anyway, so I've been speaking to obviously the Hidden Frontier guys and New Voyages and stuff like that, and Jack Marshall, who I think directed and edited the first couple for them. But yeah, anyway, and he chatted to me a bit, and when Come What May came out, I am a different type of fan now than I was 20 years ago, I'd like to stress. So you know how people like to nitpick and stuff like that? I was kind of like that, and yeah. So I posted a review of Come What May on the Hidden Frontier message boards. I tried to be polite, but I don't think I did quite as good a job as I did. And actually, it was quite a critical review. I was probably harder than I needed to be. And these days, I would probably just say, "Yay, well done, guys, congratulations," and move on, regardless of what I thought. But anyway, at this point, I was a bit more arrogant than that, and I posted a long-winded review. So Jack was not at all impressed and sent, yeah, anyway, I'll not go into that. But I mean, James didn't say anything bad to me and seemed to take it in stride, and he did not long after that offer me the role of Hodel. And I don't know if it was kind of like, yeah, let's go and show this guy, or actually, this guy's honest and he's a fan, let's get him involved. And, you know, I like James, and I had a great time on that shoot, and I had a great time with everybody on that shoot. And it was surreal. It was surreal wearing an original series costume, and I don't care what color it was.
Yeah.
It was just a thrill. It was a thrill.
Right.
And it was tailored to me, and it had my name on the tag, and it was great. Walking those sets, I mean, I grew up with that show. I mean, I'm a TNG guy. I love TNG. TNG is my favorite show. But I grew up with, I say this often, I grew up with the original series, but I became an adult with Next Generation. And that's very much ingrained into my psyche. So it was like, in a lot of ways, coming home. And it was surreal just to be surrounded by people. Not quite as surreal as being directed in a fan film by David Gerald. The guy who wrote Trouble with Tribbles.
Wow. Yeah.
Right.
What an experience.
And Denise Crosby was in it. I was in a film with Tasha Yar.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was surreal. I cannot stress how surreal it was. And it was just a great experience. I met some of the guys from Starship Farragut there for the first time. John Broughton, Paul Sieber. It was just a fun. And, you know, to this day, it makes me sad that they kind of shut up shop, because criticize what they did. And I mean, I've criticized their productions and other people's productions and my own productions. And, you know, I think we're all open to criticism. But for everything you can criticize about these productions, it's a matter of love and fandom and excitement and fun. And that set, like ours, had its stresses. And I wouldn't say that there weren't people, that angry words on occasion or people stressed out. Happens to me as well. But they were fun. It was so much fun. And all the negatives of these things ultimately are outweighed by the positives, because at the end of the day, people go away and they had a good time. And then weeks or months or years later, you get to see a film and you see yourself on screen. And I'm telling you, that death scene I had in that episode was the best red shirt death ever. It is amazing. And it might be slightly scientifically implausible, because I'm screaming when I think my lungs have already been vaporized, by, as someone else pointed out. But hey, I don't care, because it looks amazing. And actually, that is my best performance in that episode, because the rest of the episode I'm kind of, God. You know what? I was so stressed and so anxious and so nervous. I was really, really self-conscious, and I didn't do a good job on that film because I wasn't relaxed. But that scene I'm proud of, because Leslie, I can't remember her surname. She was a stunt worker on Star Trek, Next Gen, Voyager, DS9. Leslie
Hoffman.
I wish I could remember. That's her. She directed me in that scene, and she was great. I remember sitting in the car with her, and she was giving me pointers and advice and stuff like that. And to this, my performance in that scene would not have been good without her help. And I'm proud of that scene. I think I did a good job in that scene. I'm sure others could have done better, but I think I did a good job in that scene. And it's purely because I had good direction and support to do it. Because the rest of the time, I was, not great. But yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it, and I'm proud of being in it. Yeah. And I think I'm very sad to this day that they're not still producing films, because I think they were going from strength to strength, and I think they would have continued doing that. And most of the productions you see, they get better with time and they produce more polished and more slick films. And it's a shame to see so many. I mean, I'm still gutted that the Farragut guys decided to shut up shop. I don't think they needed to. I think they could have kept going, but they didn't feel they could. So, and I respect that, but I'm gutted they didn't. I was looking forward to whatever they did next because I'm a huge fan of their work.
Right.
Was that because of the conditions that CBS, Viacom, Paramount, whatever we call it these days,
Yeah.
put forward on the limitations, or was that just budget
I
You
time?
beat me to it. You beat me to it, Bob. I was going to ask about the
Me
CBS
too.
restrictions. Yes.
I think we were
I-
Yeah,
right
so I
about
wrote.
that.
I noted down they were introduced in June 2016. I was wondering as well how those guidelines have had an impact on those kinds of fan film productions.
I don't really want to speak for John and the Farragut guys. I know why they stopped, and certainly my impression is that they felt they couldn't go forward, but I wouldn't really want to speak for them more than
Right.
that.
Understood.
For my part, and I think I've had discussions with people about the guidelines and stuff like that. Look, I understand why they put the guidelines down. I don't think we needed guidelines. I think the fan film community mostly policed itself pretty well. I think most of us respected the studio's ownership and actually appreciate the fact that they were very hands-off. The problem is there was, regardless of what people say, regardless of politics, there was an arms race in fan films, and there was more and more money being pumped into it, more and more professional resources being pumped into it. At the end of the day, people were making money off it. Whether they were making money off it, being paid to be in these productions, and I don't think people were directly making money off the production itself, but there are ancillary things coming into it that people were being paid to do effects work, people were being paid to be in it, people were being paid, and it's difficult because at one hand, you're asking people to spend a lot of their time and a lot of their work for something they're not getting paid for.
Right.
I'm a fan. I make fan films for fun, but some of the people that are doing these were doing them as favors or it was a job to them. And I think that's where the line got really, really dicey. So I can see both sides of this. I understand why people are angry about it, and I understand why some people think it's a reason to stop making productions. But I understand why the studio would do it. I mean, at the end of the day, sorry, I didn't mean to press that. At the end of the day, they own Star Trek. They have to make money off it. If licensees are seeing their incomes being affected by what's going on in fan films or people being paid for stuff, they have to act to protect that. Now, having said that, I know people are still worried about guidelines and stuff, and I see this all the time. People go, "Well, the guidelines empowered. We can't do this and we can't do that." The guidelines don't say you can't do this and they can't do that. The guidelines say, if you do this, we won't object. If you do this, we won't object. If you do this, we won't object. They don't say, well, if you do this, we're going to sue your ass off. They don't say that. So yeah, if your film is 15 minutes or less, we won't care. Well, my last film was 18 minutes. Where's my cease and desist? They're not worried about what people are doing with their fan films per se. They're worried about the spirit of why that fan film's being made. If they see a fan film, I could probably put out a fan film that was 45 minutes long, and I doubt they would care. And I know the reason for that is because they would look at what I'm doing and say, well, one, it's not a professional production, which is fine. But two, they see that it's fans just having fun with the production. We're not trying to make money. We're not trying to monetize it. We're not putting ads on it. They see what the spirit behind it. It's just the celebrate. It's like a fan fiction or anything else. They don't care. If that's why you're making fan films, and frankly, I could make a professional looking film and put it on YouTube, and I don't think they would care because they know I'm not trying to rip them off. I'm not trying to present it as an actual fan film. I'm quite upfront. This is a fan film. Now, that's a fine line, and I think it's difficult to balance it. I know for a fact that I'm fine with the productions I make. I mean, I know that. There's no question of that. I've been,
Yeah.
There's no question of that. So I'm not concerned at all. And I think most people who are making fan films should not be concerned. I think if you see fan films, and I'm not suggesting anyone has done that or that's been accused of that is doing so, but I think if you see fan films as a way to line your own pockets, then you should be worried because they're not stupid and they can read between lines. You know, they're not daft.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have
thanks
a
very much for-
non-production related question, if that's okay. I noticed you're wearing a Lower Decks badge. Top 3 favorite Trek series for you. Which are your top 3?
Oh,
If you
good
had to pick any
question.
3 you can watch.
That's
that's
such
a
a
tough
hard
question.
question.
Toughest question of this interview.
Not necessarily one, top 3. I'll give you top 3.
That is top 3 series.
Oh, I bet Classic and TNG. And,
See, I
Okay,
can
I'm
answer
gonna-
for once. I can actually answer that one.
yeah.
I'm gonna have to say TNG for my first one. With a qualifier, I am an old school fan. Okay, I was in my teens when TNG came out, and I mean, the first time I saw it was probably late 80s, early 90s on a VHS rental, and it wasn't even the pilot. It was, oh god, The Naked Now and one other episode, and I watched it and thought it was dreadful. I was like, and it confirmed my biases because I'd said at the start when news of TNG came out, we can't do that without Kirk and Spock. Kirk and Spock are Star Trek. Star Trek. I don't want to see that. Oh, rubbish. Anyway, so I watched Naked Now and Code of Honor. Naked Now and Code of Honor. I mean, could you pick 2 worse episodes? So I watched them and I thought, this is dreadful. This is awful. This confirms everything I thought.
Right.
There. Then like Encounter at Farpoint came out in the local Blockbuster or whatever it was, and okay, I'll give it another chance. So I rented Encounter at Farpoint and thought, well, that just proves it. That's terrible. You know,
Aw,
to this
I
day.
love that one.
I like it better than I used to, but it's still not a great pilot. Oh, it's actually an
no.
okay pilot, but it's so
It's an okay one.
bland. It's so bland. Apart from John Delancey, everybody's so bland in it.
Q.
Yeah,
And
Steals
weird use,
it.
and weird use of music. Like whenever they put the theme song in the middle. That's
Yeah.
the one thing I didn't realize that until I rewatched it recently, and I went, "Why do they keep playing the theme song in the middle of the show?"
Right.
You know, I'm gonna have to go watch it again now. But yeah, so I watched that, and like, I didn't want to know. I didn't want to know after that. Anyway, jump forward a couple of years, and I was at uni, and there was a guy there. So, oh, you're a Star Trek fan? Oh, I'm getting these tapes from the States. It's Star Trek Next Generation. If you want to see them, I was like, oh. Ugh, it's not costing me anything. Go on then. So it was season 2. And I'll tell you, these were like 10th generation copies of copies. They were They were like, you know, a postage stamp on YouTube size, sound like video quality if you zoomed it in. So I watched a few season 2 episodes and I was like, well, it's gotten better. I was like, I'll keep watching. Then I got to, and you're gonna laugh, but I got to the Dauphin, which is a Wesley episode. And there's this, and I thought, okay, this is kind of interesting. And they got to the scene, you know, the scene where he takes it to the holodeck in this floating asteroid field. And I was like, shit, this is actually all right. That scene sold me, and that episode sold me on TNG. So I kept watching. And then I got to, oh God, what's the one? The one with Sarjenka. I can't remember the name of it at the moment, which is bad. I'm still getting old. My memory's not as good as it used to be.
Pen
Anyway,
pals,
so one was
pen pals.
Pen pals.
Pen pals.
Pen pals.
Oh,
Pen
yeah.
pals.
Got to Pen Pals and was like, this is good. Then I got to Q Who, and I was like,
That's when I became a fan of Q.
yeah. And Q Who to this day is an amazing episode. I've gone off a complete tangent here, but don't mind me. Anyway, season 3 came along, and season 3 I quite enjoyed that. Then I got to Who Watches the Watches, and I was like, oh my god, this is my favorite show. Who Watches the Watches and Darmok, my 2 favorite Star Trek episodes to this day.
Excellent.
Love them.
Excellent.
Anyway.
Darmok.
Yeah.
TNG is still, and it has its flaws. It is not a perfect show by any means. None are. But TNG, and I think it's that kind of like, you know, like it's just like a warm blanket kind of thing. And TNG is my favorite show.
Right.
close on the heels of that has got to be DS9.
Yeah.
Got to be DS9.
Yes.
Number
Um,
one.
and
Yes, number
If,
one.
to be fair, if it wasn't for the fact that I am that TNG is kind of my warm blanket show, DS9 would probably be my favorite because overall
Okay,
it's
there you go.
DS9.
probably the better
Yeah.
show. To be fair, after that, I don't know. I don't know what would come after that. Maybe probably original series, probably, or Voyager.
Voyager.
Yeah, Voyager. I do love Voyager, but
Yeah.
original series, certainly the first season,
Mhm.
and I'm slightly weird as a fan because the first 10 or so episodes of the original series, there's something about the tone and the feel and the look of it in those first 10 episodes that I like better than the rest of the original series combined. There's just something about it. And I mean, Mantrap has its faults because the ending of the Mantrap irritates me to this day. That whole sort of like, oh, we must kill it. It's like, well, I already told you, just give it salt. Why are you killing it?
Yeah.
Just give it salt. But yeah, I mean, it literally says to you, just give the creature salt.
All right.
So why are you killing it? Anyway, but apart from that, I love that episode because there's a tone and a feel to it that's really enjoyable.
Right.
Yeah, so original series, I'm going to say third for original series, but it's a close tie between that and Voyager because Voyager's got so... I know Voyager gets a lot of flack, but Voyager's got so many good episodes in there as well. I mean, there's some really great episodes in Voyager, even from the earlier seasons.
They grow on you.
Ones that people don't think.
They grow on you.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
Rise. I really like Rise with Neelix and Tuvok. Gravity, which is a very underrated episode. That Tuvok and Laurie Petty thing, that was amazing. And Robert Duncan O'Neill's Paris in that was great.
One of my favorite episodes in Voyager is the Q episode where The Right to Die. That was a very, with Quinn, that was very good. Yes. But I had a quick question though, like something that you said, like, so when in the UK were you able to watch the episodes on your television and not have copy of a copy of a copy of a copy? I did not know this, that you guys got the release of the episodes way later than it did in the States. I didn't even know this.
Oh, yeah.
In this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was years. I think it was early 90s.
But also, it depended if you had like Sky or whatever, like the digital.
Well, initially they aired
channels
because
and stuff.
TNG aired on BBC Two, 6 o'clock tea time, BBC Two, because it was considered kids programming.
Yeah, like Doctor Who.
Programming.
Wow.
Yeah, like Doctor Who.
Yeah.
But I mean, they treated Doctor
like
Who
Doctor
better.
Who, because
Yeah,
I'm like,
the BBC treated Doctor Who better because Doctor Who was a BBC show, but they still treated it as kids programming.
Yeah.
So Star Trek was not like a high priority for the BBC, and it changed. Things changed when Sky started and they got the license for Star Trek shows. So I mean, yeah, they were showing it then. So I mean, even then, into the kind of when Enterprise was airing, I mean, we were still a year or so at least, month. We were 6 months to a year behind the States, I think, on even when Enterprise was airing. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah. This got to be frustrating because you want to get in on like the new show, but because you live where you live, you don't. That would be frustrating.
well,
I mean,
it's
changed
happening
now,
with the
'cause,
new
I mean,
shows now.
Yeah.
The new shows now. I mean, we get them 24 hours after you guys.
Oh, okay.
That's
The
not
exception to that was Lower Decks.
Decks.
I mean, we waited months for Lower
still.
Decks.
Yeah.
So,
But also,
Lower
like,
Decks
short
Lower
tracks.
Decks out now. Short tracks as well. Yeah, and it's not like anybody would watch these things through other means. Obviously, of course not. But yeah.
It sounds like it gets better now because of CBS All Access, and so.
Well, it's a little bit odd because we get Discovery on Netflix, we get Picard on Amazon, and we get Lower Decks on Amazon.
Weird.
I would quite like them to just
Picard and Amazon.
And Picard on Amazon as well. I would like them to just bite the bullet and just give us Paramount Plus in the UK, and we'll just get them all on one format program.
Yeah.
But
I've
fortunately,
already got a
that
million
is what will be
subscriptions.
happening.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I've already got a gazillion subscriptions anyway, so what's one more gonna be?
I'm like,
Disney Plus, One Division,
I pay for
really?
cable. Can they just? I pay for cable. CBS just put it on there. Look, I pay for your channels. There you go. I don't want to pay for any more.
Yeah.
like subscriptions.
So, yeah, looking forward to the international release of the Paramount Plus
Yeah, it'll be good. I mean, to be
subscription
honest,
service.
I hope it. I hope we get it next. I hope we get it reasonably soon, and I hope it's a good service. But there's a lot of stuff that's going to be on there that should be good. The other thing, though, as well. I mean, I buy my Star Trek. I buy the Star Trek shows. So you know, it's one of those things. It's like I tend to buy I mean, I don't buy discs very often anymore, but discs I do buy is I tend to buy Star Trek on Blu-ray these days. I still have my old VHS of my old DVDs of TNG. I did get rid of the VHS though. Although I do have a few. I do still have a few on the shelf. I've got a couple that were signed at conventions and stuff like that, so I kept them.
Right.
I think I got a VHS of Yesteryear when I was writing all about the episode for Memory Alpha, just to see if it was any different from the DVD release of that episode. Well, it wasn't. It was just like I wondered if it included like any special interview segments with like Leonard Nimoy or whatever, but it was just the episodes.
It had the old special effects, maybe,
Yeah.
before they were, heightened.
I wish that Deep Space Nine was done in Blu-ray and like done. I love the the documentary and when they did everything and they did some of the episodes. But if it was actually completely out, I would buy it. I would happily buy it. I would take my money.
Me too. Me too.
Take
I guess.
my money.
I mean,
That's
I'm
that's
bad.
another
I guess
thing I'm looking
They're
forward
not going to
to.
do it. They're not going to do it.
I double dip.
Well,
Because,
that's
I'll buy the Blu-rays and then I'll go and buy it on iTunes as well, which is pathetic. But I like to be able to. It's like I've got an iPad. If I'm going on holiday or going away, I like to be able to download a few episodes and watch when I'm on a train or a plane or something like that. Because I am a sad fanboy. It's like I want it on everything.
Well, I'm looking forward to the Voyager documentary. I'm currently thinking about what's in production. Prodigy and Strange New Worlds are both in production just now, with the second season of Star Trek Picard and the fourth season of Discovery also in production. Also,
Strange New Worlds.
yeah,
Yes.
Sorry,
I didn't look at that.
I'm like Captain Pike. Talk
Yeah,
about
and another
fangirl.
He was perfectly cast.
Yes.
Yes, without a doubt.
He was the reason why I gave Discovery another chance, and then I loved it. I was like, yes. Woo!
So some guest stars have been announced for, for example, Sonia Gomez and Ensign from The Next Generation second season's episodes, Q Who, which you mentioned, and Samaran Snair will be returning as a captain in the second season of Lower Decks. And Billy Campbell will be playing Thadian O'Connor, returning from the second season TNG episode Outrageous O'Connor in the new series Star Trek Prodigy, which Kate Mulgrew will be appearing in as Captain Janeway. All of that's been announced. Just wanted to discuss some sort of news in this episode because we haven't really discussed any of that yet, and it has been announced. So I just wondered which of the series or seasons are you looking forward to?
All of it.
To me or to anybody? Like
Anyone who'd like to answer.
anyway, I am I'll start. I'm looking forward to Picard. I would love.
Me too.
I'm looking forward to Picard. I'm looking forward to, in particular, how he deals with his new existence. Because I think safe to say there's no spoilers now because everybody's seen it. Like how does one, like, you died and now you're like like how does one process that? And I would love to see John D. Lancey come in. I think that would be fabulous, to have John D. Lancey have what a great interaction John D. Lancey and Picard and Q have, so I would love to see that. And Guinan is going to be in it, and I absolutely love Whoopi Goldberg's reaction on The View on the show when Patrick Stewart came on the show and said, "Would you be on the show?" there was genuine tears. She is so
Yeah.
excited to be back on, to reprise her role as Guinan. I'm looking forward. That is the show that I am looking forward to the most. Then also Discovery. I'm loving that show too as well. I think those are the top two for me.
Lower
Cool.
Decks too for me.
Lower Decks. That's a good show too. I like that. I like that show.
Picard
Lower Decks and
Lower
Strange
Decks.
New World. Those
Yeah.
two. Lower Decks and Strange
And
New World.
Strange New World. And Prodigy. Oh, I just want it all.
Yes.
And you don't have
regarding-
any-
Choose.
Make it so. Have it all.
Hey, Bob,
So-
how about you?
Make-
Bob, how about you?
Oh, I want it all too.
So,
But I'm really
just-
looking forward to Star Trek Picard. coming
Yes.
back,
Mm.
you know.
So regarding Prodigy, we got this image on Wednesday of the
Ooh.
main cast. These guys.
Nice.
Yep. But anyway, I'd just like to finish up here probably.
Okay.
Thanks very much for coming on, Nick. It was great to speak with you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Right. It was great having you, Nick. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks,
Hey,
Nick.
have me on
Yes.
again. This was great fun. I just come along
Oh,
and chat
yes.
because,
Yes.
nerdish Star Trek
Yeah.
silliness.
Hey.
Did hang out with us.
Apologies for all the
time.
mess behind
Yeah,
me.
come back again.
Yes, most definitely.
That's not a mess.
Sure,
That's
yeah.
just that's the quarters that have been lived
That's all
in.
my junk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks
But
very much for
guys
watching.
For everybody joining us. Thank you.
Yep, we've
Yes.
got a few likes and stuff like that on Facebook.
Yes. Like and
Uh,
subscribe to the Scotch Tracker. Smash the like
On
button.
YouTube, yep.
Smash it.
Smash it.
it.
Dirty. Smash it.
Live long and prosper.
Yes.